Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start parenting our train models to the train controller objects. Make sure they all move around the track and facing the right direction. Adjust the Z height and go ahead and attach the track to the path. So let's go ahead and select all of our train parts here and move those back on the X axis away from the origin. And if we go back to 0, our smoke will clear. And let's find our train 0 engine. And let's go to the constraints. And we're going to click the eyeball to turn that off so it comes back to the world origin. And your 3D cursor should be here. If not, with the cube selected, hit Shift S and cursor to selected, and that will move the 3D cursor to that point. So then we're going to select the train body. Everything else is parented to that. So then hit Shift S and at the top, selection to cursor, and that will move our train to our empty object. So we have the train selected. Let's hit Shift Select to select the cube, and the cube will be the lighter of the two selected. And we'll hit Control P for parent to object. And then last, we can click the eyeball to turn that on, and it moves back to the train track. So we can see that our offset is not up here on the track, and we're going to leave that alone for now. We're going to wait till they're all together to change the offset. And it's facing the wrong way. So let's go ahead and just look at which way we have it. So we have negative X. So if we switch that to positive X, that will make it face the correct direction. Now, yours might be a different axis depending on how it was rotated, but just try each of those until it faces the way that you want. Now that that seems to be set up correct, we're just going to pan and orbit back to our center. Select train 1 dash car, turn off the constraint by hitting the eyeball. The 3D cursor is where we need it to be. Select this, Shift S, and selection to cursor. And then we're going to Shift select the empty object, Control P to parent, click object, and turn it on, and it'll go back. And we'll go ahead and parent the others, and then we'll go double check the forward axis on all of them. Now let's do train 2 dash car, and let's turn that off. Select this one, snap that to the origin, select the empty object. Oh, let's see here. Like so, Control P to parent, turn that back on, select our next one, turn off the constraint, snap this to the origin, Shift select our empty object, Control P, parent to object, and turn that back on. So let's go over here and look, and they are facing the wrong direction. I think we needed positive X. Let's see if that works. And that works. And for the last one, there we go. And we can select, well, let's wait and see how it looks in comparison to our landscape. So now that they're all here, we can grab this empty cube on the Z axis, and you'll notice it's a bit temperamental. So I'm going to hit escape, open the transform panel, and just type in a smaller number. So it looks like 0.1 will get us above this. And I'm going to leave it like that for now, and we'll adjust this more once we add the track, which let's just go ahead and do that. So let's go to our asset browser, and let's find our train track piece. And we have that piece there. We're going to go to the modifiers connected to that piece, and it's going to fit to the train path. And then it's going to curve to the train path also. And it's doing a few weird things, and I had this happen earlier. So let's see if we can get this fixed. So I'm selecting the path itself. I'm going to move the 3D cursor to its origin point. So Shift S, cursor to selected. And with the path selected, we can see that the origin point is here. Now I'm going to select the train track piece, hit Shift S, and move that selection to the cursor. And that should fix it so that is now conforming to the right shape. You'll notice that it is too far down. So I'm going to, once again, type in a small number. Let's see, 0.05, no, 0.02. Oh, that's not doing what I want. Let's see if we can just grab it on the Z-axis. While I have this grabbed and I'm moving on the Z-axis, if you hold Shift, it will move in smaller amounts than normal. So let's put it there for now. And let's go ahead and hit Alt-H to unhide our landscape. So now we can start to decide, is our train the right scale in relation to the landscape? And this is really up to you. If you want the landscape to seem really large, you want the train to be small. If you want the landscape to look a little more intimate and closer, you want the train bigger so it doesn't look like mountains, it just looks more like hills. So that really is just a personal preference. So I'm going to select the cube and scale this a little bit. Let's go with that. I'm going to go ahead and lower it down on the Z-axis a little bit. So let's try 0.09. That's pretty close to being on the track, just barely off. So let's go 0.089, 0.0895. So you're just going to have to type in some numbers until you get it where you want it. And then your train tracks may not fit perfectly. So you have a couple options. You can select the train track and scale it. So if you want it to be a bit smaller, and let's move this back a few frames. There we go. So it seems to be fitting okay there. If you need to scale it on the Y, you can make it thicker or thinner. You should be able to grab it on the Y also and offset it if you want also. So once you have scaled and moved it to the location you need it, you can hit Control A and apply the scale, and it will update the length so that it once again fits onto the curve correctly. And last, let's go ahead and space the cars out. So we're going to select the empty cube and our value E, offset value. We can increase that, and that will start to space our cars the way we want. So let's go 0.51, 0.52, and yours obviously may be different than mine. You'll just have to experiment. And I'm just going for the point where they barely touch or barely don't touch. You don't have to worry about getting it perfect. And that will give us our spacing for the train cars. So I'm going to stop this video. And in the next video, we're just going to fine tune a few things, add a little bit more to the particle system with the turbulence force, wrap up a few loose ends, bake the particle simulation so it doesn't have to update each time. And that will hopefully get us close to being done with this part. And then in the next lesson, we'll talk about animating the camera and doing some different things with that.